So then I try and find some kind of like middle ground between staying fashionable and fitting in with my friends, but also not like having my arse out completely. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another British English chit chat with me and my mate Steve. So, Steve, how's it going?
Hi, Lewis. It's going okay. Okay. I've had a few technical issues with my computers and things, but that's all been fixed. So, yeah, everything at the moment is hunky dory. How about you?
Good. Yeah, I cannot complain. The weather's a little bit mental. One minute it's raining, the next minute it's cloudy, then you've got a storm, then the sun comes out. So it's a little bit mental and unpredictable. But apart from that, all good. Yeah, what can I say? I've had a little bit of a cough the last few days, but luckily I've managed to fight it off and I haven't got any worse. I thought I was going to come down with a really bad flu or fever, but it seems like the worst is over and I didn't actually get that sick. I didn't get that poorly. So touch wood that it stays that way.
Fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed indeed. And as usual, I've prepared 8 different conversation questions and topics that we're going to have a little chat about. We're going to tell some stories about. And the first one is actually related to a topic that both of us have discussed on our channels. And it's something that Steve actually wanted to go over the last time we got together for a chat, and we didn't get round to it. We didn't have the time. So, I think you know what I'm on about. I think you know what I'm talking about. Steve, do you think that aliens exist?
Do I think they exist? Oh, they do exist. Of that, there is no doubt. Whether they visited Earth is a different question. But when you think of how many planets there are in existence, I think scientists say there's more planets than there are grains of sand in the world. So it's silly, I think, to think that we're the only ones with living beings in. So yes, of course they exist. Everyone really deep down, I think, knows that. Question is, have they visited? What about you? Do you think they exist?
I mean, you see, one of the topics on the podcast recently has been about space exploration and about aliens. And what I said, I think, was that, of course, they must exist. Like some kind of alien life must exist somewhere on one of the thousands or millions of planets that are far, far away from ours. But I don't think they exist in the way that science fiction has told us that they might exist, with like E.T., this kind of like humanoid alien. I don't think that's very likely, but maybe some kind of plants, maybe some kind of like small beings that live underground or underwater. But having aliens that look like us with limbs and the ability to think, I'm not sure. I think if I don't see it, I'm not going to believe it. It's very easy to me to think that there must be some kind of plants that are out there or some kind of bacteria that is out there. But something that's similar to us, I don't know. I don't believe it until I see it.
Okay, which leads me nicely on to I was sort of in your lane with this, your way of thinking. Um, and something happened that changed my mind a little. I don't know.
Okay, go
I don't know.
on.
I travel in America a lot. I go to America all the time for weeks and weeks, months and months at a time, all over. And once I was in California and I was heading back to Las Vegas. And when I was in Las Vegas, I was going to um, return the car that I'd hired at the airport, jump on a plane, fly back to England. I'd been away for about 6 weeks. So I'd had a nice time driving up the coast. And on the way back, there was two possible routes I could take. One took me across a place called Death Valley.
Uh-huh.
It's quite famous. It's the hottest place on earth. And I'd wanted to see it, so I drove across. Scary old place, like the surface of the moon. No aliens. But I got a cry. I managed to survive, obviously, getting across this Death Valley. And then there was a left turn and a right turn. The right turn would take me straight to Las Vegas. The left turn would take me in a roundabout way to Las Vegas, but I'd have to spend an extra night.
Mm-hmm.
So that route took me past a place called Area 51.
Yeah.
Now, Area 51, for those that don't know, is supposedly a secret American Air Force base where they test experimental aircraft. And amongst other things, the rumor is that when flying saucers, unidentified flying objects land, they land and in America, they're taken to this base and kept secret. So I wanted to see it. Obviously, it's not that much of a secret, and I knew it was there, but I wanted to see it. So despite needing an extra day, I decided to go. And oh, it's a long drive because you're going through something called the Mojave Desert. I think that's how you pronounce it. Mojave Desert. And it's miles and miles. I went for over an hour, never saw another person, another car, didn't see a thing. And suddenly I saw a mountain range appear and it was on my right. I couldn't see past it, but I knew this Area 51 was behind a mountain range. And I thought, I wonder if that's it. And as I drove along, I saw a big black car, like the President of the United States has. And it was parked at the side of the road, up a little bit, like on a mound. And there was two men in it with dark glasses. And as I drove past, I swear this is true. As I drove past, they pulled behind me. I remember I hadn't seen another thing for hours, and suddenly I've got this car following behind me. They don't approach me, they don't fall back, they don't try and overtake me, they're just following me. And as I drove along, I saw a little side road and it was full of warning signs, official government warning signs. Don't go down there or you'll get shot or prosecuted or something. So I didn't because these guys were behind me. I might have, but I didn't. So I drove past. And as soon as I drove past and they saw I was carrying on my way, they did a turn in the road. In the UK, we call it a 3-point turn in the road
Mm-hmm.
and drove back the way they'd come. And I've got to be honest, I was a little shaken up. So I had a night to kill and I came across this tiny little motel, pulled in, and this huge man came out. Oh, he was built like a bear. The tiny little dog, I remember that. And I asked if there was a room for the night. He said the place is empty. And I've cut this long story short. I commented that there was lots of sun lounges. And I said, it's a shame I'm leaving first thing because I would just get a book and sit in the sun and have a read. He said, no, that's not what they're for. They're for the night time. You go and lie on them and look at the star, look at the sky to see anything unusual. Now, this man wouldn't be drawn on whether he had seen anything at all. Bear in mind, he owned this small motel and it was in right next to this secret place. So that night, I spent 2 hours sitting on the sunbed watching the skies. Beautiful stars. I did see a couple of fighter planes playing with each other. Do you remember in the movie Top Gun where they practice fighting and maneuvers? But they were obviously fighter planes, so that wasn't it. It was a bit exciting, but never saw anything unusual. Went to bed. Next day, said goodbye to the man, got in the car. As I was driving back to Las Vegas, I saw two silver discs coming towards me, and they were not far above the road, maybe, I don't know, 100 meters above the road, so really low, and two of them straight at me. And I thought, oh, pulled over to the side of the road. Remember, there's nothing on this road, so I just basically stopped.
Uh-huh.
And these things went right overhead, and they were two American stealth bombers. So the ones with the round front and the bat wing backs.
Yeah, yeah.
But from the front, you just see two silver discs. And as they went over, I thought, oh, I'd never seen one in real life. And I thought, oh, that must be what,
UFOs.
yeah, that must be what people see when they think they see discs, is these things coming flying towards them.
Uh-huh.
So, hard going, started the car and went. And just as I was pulling away, I thought, well, what a waste of time that was. And from the corner of my eye, I saw another silver disc, but this time it was completely round. It was high up in the sky and it didn't do anything. It didn't move. It was just there. So I stopped again, looked at it, rubbed my eyes, put my glasses on. And as I watched, it just disappeared. I had no idea what it was. Could have been a weather balloon, could have been something. I have no idea. But there you go. That's my alien story, if it's aliens. And it's probably not. It was probably innocent. They have lots of experimental aircraft going around there. So it was probably that.
Okay.
That is my alien story.
I mean, it's a great story, and you're a very good storyteller as well. I was into it. I was like wondering, like, will he see an alien? Will aliens attack him? What happened? Was he kidnapped by aliens? So it seems like maybe there was a lot of coincidences that made you think, like, okay, maybe UFOs are there, maybe aliens are there. And I think if you are driving through this area, knowing that you have Area 51 as well, your mind will be like going into overdrive and thinking double, looking at everything and wondering, like, okay, is that an alien? Is that a UFO? So maybe you're more prone to being
Yes.
tricked and thinking that this could happen. Because with everything, I'm always very cynical. So when I think about these things, I'm like, well, of course, if you see a round flying object and you know that the US government is always there, then what's it going to be? Of course, it's going to be the government. Maybe it's just some kind of vehicle that we're unaware of, or because of the angle, it might seem like it's a UFO, but really it's just one of these stealth bombers. But to be honest, if I were in your shoes, if I were in your situation, then knowing everything that goes on behind closed doors, I would start to second guess myself. And I'd start to think, like, actually, what if it is true? What if really the US government does know lots of confidential information about aliens that have come to visit us? But I guess we'll never find out.
I guess.
It's going to be an eternal mystery. But let us know in the comments. Do you reckon
Yeah.
aliens exist? And have you ever seen anything that made you question yourself and think, like, okay, that's strange. Maybe, just maybe, it's alien life.
Spooky.
Spooky indeed. Now, let's move on to the next question. And I'll answer this one first and then I'll throw it back at you. And it is, what's a skill you think everyone should learn? An ability, a talent almost that everyone should learn? I'd say one thing everyone should learn is how to do government paperwork and taxes. So,
Hmm.
it's boring. I know. It's horribly boring. But when I was growing up, primary school, secondary school, sixth form, uni, I was never interested in any of this, and nobody ever told me how to do anything like this. Maybe I wasn't paying attention, so then when somebody mentioned doing your taxes, it just went over my head and I didn't care about it. But it is something that nobody can avoid. We all have to pay our taxes. And I've only started looking into these things since becoming my own boss, because previously it was always the company I worked for who'd take care of everything for me. So then, upon being a freelancer, I was lost. I had no idea what to do, and I felt a little bit let down by the system that
Mm,
nobody had ever told me what to do. Luckily, AI already existed by this point, so I could do a lot of basic research to figure out how to do things. But if AI hadn't existed a couple of years ago, when I was actually learning about doing my taxes at the age of like 30, 31, then I'd have been lost. So I think one skill or at least piece of knowledge that everybody should be aware of is taxes and, official paperwork. I know it's boring, but that's my
mm.
answer. Um, Steve, what do you think about this and what would you say?
I agree, and I think I'm going to come up with another boring one. I'm in my mind. I'm thinking, oh, say something exciting like play the guitar or swim,
Uh-huh.
But no,
Maybe.
mine's typing. I
Okay.
think everyone should learn to type. I was really fortunate that when I was about 19, I, like most people, could type with two fingers,
Mhm.
looking at the keyboard. And it was typewriters in those days. Yeah, it wasn't word processors even, never mind computers. It was typewriters because I'm that old. Well, the local college did night school, and I was single. I was looking for love, and I looked at all the courses and thought bricklaying, there's not going to be many women on that. Oh,
Mhm.
car maintenance, there's not going to be many women on that. Typing, oh, okay. And so I applied. And so, really, for to use a bad word, nefarious, really bad reasons, as a 19-year-old young man, I took a night school class essentially because I knew there would be lots of women on the class. But the class was to learn how to touch type.
Mhm.
And I couldn't believe how easy it was. Do you know, within a week, I was good. Within a month, I was about 80 words a minute. And what I didn't know then was, of course, computers were on the way. So when computers arrived first in where I worked, and people would say, well, you've got to type this and this, I could just read what I was supposed to type and my fingers would just automatically go. I found it therapeutic. I found it relaxing. I still do. And now, like you, of course, we write scripts for videos, I write stories, I write books, things like that. And it's so useful just to be able to think and it just appear on the screen.
Mhm.
And so data entry, which is, I think, the technical term for it, will always be required. No matter how good AI gets, no matter how good at translating your voice as it goes in, it will make mistakes. And there's something about physically joining to your computer through a keyboard. So I would say you can learn online, it's free. Just go on YouTube and search how do I touch type, and it will give you loads of exercises. There's apps with games that you can do now, and they're fun. Within a week, you'll be able to touch type. Within a month, you'll be amazed at the progress you get. And it's a skill for life. You'll always have that skill.
Okay. No, no, it's a good choice. For example, when I'm teaching a lot of classes, I will be multitasking because I'll be asking people questions. I'll be like switching from screen to screen. And at the same time, I'm always writing down different corrections, new words, new phrases in the chat. And what I try to do is more or less maintain eye contact with my students as I'm doing it. So there'll be times where I'll check, like, oops, that's a bit of a typo. Maybe I should correct that, but usually I'm able to continue to type whilst having a conversation. And at least for our role and our job, it does make a difference, I think, if you're able to multitask, type different notes, corrections, etc., whilst staying engaged with the student and the rest of the group. So I agree. It's a useful skill to learn. And other things that come to mind could be uh, like survival stuff. So Learning how to swim, I think everybody should be able to do it. Learning how to do first aid, I think this is another thing that everybody should be able to do. And I don't know, making a fire, DIY things, so practical survival skills also. Despite living in cities and having everything made and prepared for us, I do think it's still important to learn these basic things to be able to survive if you're out in the wilderness, if you're camping. So that's another thing which is maybe more exciting that comes to mind.
It is. I think the education system, in to be honest, I obviously don't know the education system in all the countries, but from what I understand, certainly in the UK, they let us down really with practical skills. Like I didn't know how to change the plug. If the plug broke on a hairdryer, I didn't know how to
Uh-huh.
change it, so my dad had to teach me. And like balancing the budget, you talk about taxes, but balancing your own personal budget, opening a bank account, I didn't know how to do it. So in school, I would learn maths, and I was quite good at maths. I passed all my exams. So I learned algebra, and I can get a value of this over that. But I didn't know how to balance my budget. And I think the education system needs a bit of a rethink, really, to include things like that and more practical things, like you've suggested.
Exactly. If anybody is listening who works in education and curriculum, let us know. We've got some suggestions.
Yeah.
Now, let's keep going with the third question. And this is quite a funny one because we can speak about some possibly embarrassing memories. Because the question is, what's the worst haircut you've ever had? And I've got it on the tip of my tongue, so I'll go ahead and answer mine first of all, because I've had two that come to mind.
Is it
And
that one? Is it that one that you've got now?
this one's pretty bad as well. And I do sometimes receive I receive comments from people. It's like, Lewis, comb your hair. Lewis, brush your hair. Because usually what I do after having a shower is, I'll get a towel and then just go a little bit crazy. And then usually it gives it a little bit more volume, but it looks very messy at the same time. So maybe this is it. But no, going back in time, I remember when I was, I think, 12 years old. And with my local football team, we were going to do an exchange. And it was an exchange with a German football club, which was in a town called Hamm. And well, my town, Bingley, was twinned with Ham. So it was something that the football club did twice. When was it? It was when you were 12 and 14. So when we were 12, we were all about to go to Germany, live with a German family, play in some friendly football matches at the same time. And before we went, we all decided to dye our hair, like all the football team. Why? I don't know. But we all dyed our hair, and it was a combination of blonde and red. So we were like leopards almost. We looked like absolute plonkers, absolute idiots, having random patches of blonde and patches of ginger, redhead, and wearing our football kit as well. So we must have looked absolutely terrible. And I remember it took a few weeks for the hair dye to actually fade away and go back to normal. So that's probably the worst haircut I've ever had, and the only time that I have dyed my hair, and it's the only time I will dye my hair. As I get older, I'm noticing some grey hairs, and
Yeah,
I'm
me
not going to
too. Me
dye
too.
it. You're way ahead of the curve. So when this happens to me, I'm just going to embrace it and be a silver fox. So that was my worst ever haircut. Steve, how about yours?
It's bizarrely similar to yours. I've
Oh, yeah?
obviously never heard that story before. Um, in my 20s, we had a works Christmas do, and I decided it would be a good idea to dye my hair, to go to this do and surprise people. Because I worked in a very serious job. I thought it would be the funniest thing in the world.
Uh-huh.
So, blonde, blue stripes. 3 blue stripes. Turned up, everyone thought it was hilarious. I've still got the photographs. I went to a proper hairdresser's. It wasn't like you
Okay.
can get dye in a can now that you just wash out. No, this was a proper hairdresser's.
Uh-huh.
And I remember my boss coming up to me, who is quite an important man. You know, he came up to me and said, "Will that wash out?" I said, "Well, I'm off for a week." You know, it was Christmas. I was taking a week off. I said, "In the new year, it'll all be gone." And so he said, "Good, see that it is, because you're not coming back to work till that's gone." So I went, "Yeah, okay." Lots of photographs taken. Everyone wanted the photograph taken. I mean, it was fun. Um, 2 days later, when I'd gone out with family and friends and they thought it was funny, I thought, right, wash, nothing. Wash, nothing. Went back to the hairdressers and said, "How do I stop this?" And he said, "Well, it's got to grow out. It'll take about 2 months." So I said,
Oh.
"No, that can't be right." He said, "The only thing you can do is shave your head, totally shave it so you're completely bald." So I said, "Do it," because I'm out of a job. So they shaved my head, but it had dyed the skin. So my
Oh.
my head was bald, and now I had three blue stripes. Went into work on about the 2nd of January, and I was trying to avoid my boss. And when he finally saw, he wouldn't let me leave the office. I had to stay in the office for about a month till it had faded and some hair had started to grow back through. So yeah, undoubtedly, it was the best haircut I've ever had and the worst.
And very memorable, you see.
Yeah.
This is why you'll always remember it. In my case, I'll always remember mine as well. And it's true that mine wasn't as serious because it was this dye in a can. So we all kind of like dyed our hair. And I think it lasted like 2 weeks maximum because we were just spraying it on. So it wasn't like the proper professional job. So we knew that it wasn't going to last that long. But the second time when I've had another bad haircut, but maybe there's been a few more, but it was when I was at uni, and I remember we used to, do some dares and play some games with forfeits. And one of the forfeits was that you'd have to shave your head. And I don't remember exactly what the game was or what I lost to end up being in this situation. But I remember at like 2 o'clock in the morning on a Saturday night at our house, my mate getting like the electric razor and then so shaving like a big line off in the middle. So for 5, 10 minutes, I had a little bit of hair, tufts of hair on each side, and then just a line where it had been shaved off. And I think a week later, I had my sister's graduation as well. So I went to my sister's graduation. Luckily, my scalp was normal color. It wasn't blonde and it wasn't blue or anything. But it was the first time that I had a skinhead look. And it looked all right. But hey, uh, the haircut after 10 minutes was not a good look at all.
Yeah. Good
Okay,
fun.
let's keep going. Next question. This one is related to athletics and the Olympics and sport. It is, if you were an Olympic athlete, what sport would you compete in? So, Steve, any ideas what sport you'd compete in if you were an Olympic athlete?
These days, sitting. I'm an Olympic gold medalist at having a good sit. I like a good sit, but in my youth, table tennis.
Okay,
I was some people call it ping pong, and I was the king of ping.
the king of ping pong.
I was okay. I think I'm not at Olympic standard, but it was unusual for me to get beaten. I was pretty good. We had a very professional setup where I worked. So lunchtime and after work, people would stay behind. We all had our own bats, and it was like a little team thing going on, and I used to love it. To be honest, we used to play for money, and it was very good. It's very lucrative for me.
Uh,
What about you? If you were in the Olympics, where would we watch you? What would we watch you doing?
Well, probably not ping pong. I do like ping pong, but I'm not the best, admittedly. I'd like to practice more, but I haven't got a table at home, but maybe in the future. But if I could choose, thinking about what I'm okay at and what I think is the most exciting, the most fun, is running. So I'm never going to be able to compete with these amazing Kenyans who are the best at marathon running, who are able to complete a marathon in under 2 hours. That's crazy. But I'm relatively good at running. And it's true that the blockbuster event in the Olympics is usually 100-meter sprint, 200 meters as well, and 400 meters. I don't think I've got the explosive power to be good enough in 100 meters, and probably not 200 meters either. But I find that 400 meters is a little bit better and more exciting because you go all the way around the track usually, and it gives you time to slightly pace yourself to start a little bit slower and then overtake other people. So if I could choose, I'd probably say the 400-meter sprint and run. And if I were able to be included on like the relay as well, so I could be in a team and pass the baton on to other people in my team, then that would be a dream come true. But it's never going to
Mm.
happen. That ship
I
has sailed.
teach I teach a Japanese gentleman who works in finance, and his hobby is marathon running. So
Okay.
almost every week he'll have competed somewhere, or just if it's a random Tuesday afternoon, I'll say, "Oh, what did you do this morning?" He'll say, "Oh, I just went and ran, you know, 20 miles." He'll just be sat there like that's no effort at all.
Okay.
And lovely man. But he said the best one he ever did, he did live in Luxembourg, on not far from you, I guess,
Yeah, yeah.
and which is the center of the financial world, I think. And he said the best marathon he ever did was in France because instead of water stations on a marathon, there's people, volunteers stand at the side handing out water to the runners. He said it was through the vineyards. So there's people literally handing out glasses of wine. He says no one finished that marathon.
Look, it's funny because I've seen a video of this as well, and it looks amazing. And I've never been to this part of France. So combining doing like the wine marathon with visiting different vineyards and doing wine tasting, oh, this would be amazing. But I don't think the trip would be very focused on running and a lot
No.
more focused on drinking wine. Awesome. All right, next question. This one is a question that a lot of Brits will ask each other, maybe at the pub, as a little bit of small talk, because it's something that can divide us quite a lot, because we love our crisps. And important to notice that in the UK, crisps are what they call in the United States chips. But of course, for us, chips are like what you have with fish and chips. So I'm sure you're already aware of that. But here we are speaking specifically about crisps, the ones that come in a packet, you open them, there's loads of different flavors. So, Steve, do you have a favorite flavor of crisps?
It's interesting, the word crisps. It's like the word fists or asks. Lots of my students have trouble with those words. I think lots of English learners have trouble with those type of words where it's an S, then a consonant sound, then another S. And there's an easy way to do it really. For the likes of crisps, if you end up saying crips, which is really common, is just after the I, start your S sound, make your S sound really long, and just close your mouth and open it again. Don't try and say the P. Just open and close your mouth. So you go crisps. Just keep that S going and just close your mouth. You get the perfect crisp sound. So little handy hint for if you're struggling with that. Um, I'm not a fan of crisps.
You're not a fan of
Sometimes I can
crisps?
go for a year and never eat a crisp. The only ones that are okay for me are salt and vinegar.
Okay, wow. You see, I thought that crisps were something that everybody liked. And to be honest, I like crisps, but it's not what I crave. I rarely have cravings for crisps. And nowadays, I'll often have crisps when, you're getting together with some friends, you've got a little bit of a gathering, and then you're having some drinks, you've got some olives, maybe, some crisps, some kind of like salami, whatever. And then usually I just have ready salted, which are the boring, plain ones with just a little bit of salt, but I don't think they're my favorite. And first, I like crinkle cut crisps. And these are the ones that have got little like ridges in them. So it feels like it can absorb more flavor and you've got more texture as well. So there's a brand in the UK, which is a classic brand of crisps, and it is Seabrook or Seabrooks. And these for me are the tastiest crisps that you can get, and there's nothing too special about them, but it is the fact that they are crinkle cut, which I really like. And I also love salt and vinegar. I love prawn cocktail. I remember that when I was growing up, you had a version of Walker's, which was Sensations, which was the kind of slightly more expensive and slightly posher or fancier version of Walker's crisps. And one of the flavors that I loved was sweet chili, I think, because
Okay.
I love spicy food. So having spicy crisps was like, my two worlds have come together. So
Marvelous.
I'm not exactly answering the question, but I like crinkle cut. I like a little bit of everything. And if they can be spicy, for me, much better.
Do you remember when hedgehog crisps became popular?
Hedgehog crisps.
Hedgehog flavored crisps. I'm sure no hedgehogs were hurt in the making of these crisps, but they were
Let's hope
called
not.
hedgehog flavored crisps. I think you can still buy them.
Okay. And what
Never
exactly
had
did
them.
they taste of? I've never
I've
tried them.
never had them. I've no idea. I've no idea. I'm not a huge fan. You're talking about things that I just don't know about. Someone offers me a crisp. If it's salt and vinegar, I might have one, but just doesn't do much for me.
Doesn't hit the spot.
No.
It's not your kind of thing. Well, let us know what your favorite type of crisps are. And let us know if you struggle with the pronunciation as well, because it's right what Steve was saying that many people do like hesitate a little bit when it comes to saying them. And at the same time, I have some students who will struggle between saying taxes, you pay your taxes, and tasks, which is the same kind
Yeah,
of principle as crisps.
it
So
is.
somebody might be saying, oh, I was just, at work doing my tasks. Perfect. You were doing different jobs, different activities. But then if you say I was at work doing my taxes, then you're saying that you were, organizing your paperwork to pay the government.
Yeah.
Taxes and tasks. All right, next question. It is, what is a trend that you never understood? And whilst you're mulling it over, whilst you're thinking of it, one of them, which I never got my head around, I never understood, was jeans with holes in them. So I know this was all the rage. They were very, very popular, maybe 15, 20 years ago. And you'd see people wearing jeans, and then their knees would be on show, in particular their knees. So for me, it defeats the object of wearing trousers. If you're showing your knees, then why not wear shorts? So I never bought any kind of these jeans that have holes in them. I've forgotten the technical term, but I never
Distressed.
understood. Hmm?
Distressed jeans.
Distress jeans, were they?
Mm, yeah.
Well, I never
Where they're
understood.
deliberately worn out with holes and marks and pulls. Yeah.
I never got it, and I don't to this day either. If this fashion comes back into fashion, then I'm not buying it either. So that's one trend that I never understood. Steve, how about you?
Um, I remember my niece buying a pair of very expensive designer distressed jeans, and they were more hole than jeans. And I said, "I'm just not taking you out tonight. We're going out for a meal." And I said, "No, go and get changed. That's just ridiculous." She says, "They're brand new. They cost me over £100. No, go and put something proper on." Um, I've got one as well, and it's to do with jeans, or well, trousers, really. I never understood a few years ago the trend men had for wearing the trouser waist low down mid thigh so they showed all
Mhm.
their underwear. And I sort of get that it could be a fashion. I've not a problem with that. I don't like seeing other people's underwear. Call me old fashioned, but I think it's called underwear because it should go under your wear. Um, but I remember, this is going to really age me now, or date me rather. I was going to hire a video from the video shop, Blockbuster video shop, and there was 3 steps to get into the shop. So you went up 3 small steps and before you went to the front door. And there was a mother with her teenage son, and he was wearing his trousers and they were belted around his mid-thigh, showing most of his underwear. And he couldn't climb the stairs. And his mother was shouting at him, saying, and he must have been about 17 maybe, and he had to hold the crotch of his jeans up to try and struggle up these. And the steps are only this big. His mum ran up them, and she said, "I've told you, this is ridiculous. You can't even walk." And so I didn't really ever understand that trend. I just think it's maybe I'm just too old to understand it, but
I mean, I
that's
agree. And I remember when I was kind of into this trend a little bit. I think, peer pressure, pressure from your peers meant that if everybody was wearing their jeans like this, then you'd want to do it as well to fit in, to not be like the odd one out, the weird one. So there were times when I'd do it. I don't think I overdid it, and you could never properly see my ass, but you could sometimes see just the top of my boxers, so you could see the brand. If I was like, "Oh, I've got Calvin Klein," so then
yeah.
maybe just be able to
Lewis, they were
Calvin
Marks and
Klein.
Spencer. Stop lying. Your mum only ever bought you Marks and Spencer.
No, no, no. There was a time when she would specifically go to TK Maxx where you could get branded clothing at a discount. And I'd be like, "Mum, can you get me some Calvin Klein boxers? I know they're a little bit more expensive, but please, they're really, really fashionable." So with this, I would kind of pull my jeans down slightly. And I remember my dad would then tell me, like, "Lewis, pull your pants up, pull your trousers up. You can see your ass." So then I'd try and find some kind of like middle ground between staying fashionable and fitting in with my friends, but also not like having my ass out completely. So yeah,
You've you've just hit on something that
go on.
really it miffs me. Doesn't make me angry, but it like bothers me. So it miffs me. And that's the use of the word pants. Because so often I hear English teachers saying that in in England you have underpants, whereas Americans will use the word pants for trousers.
Hmm.
And that's simply not true. How many times do you hear that? English people don't ever use the word pants. But that's just not true. You just said there, your dad said, pull your pants up. You go into a big department store, it'll have a pants section, ladies' pants section. They
Hmm.
don't mean your underpants. They mean outer trousers. And yet, Americans in particular seem to insist that British people simply never use the word pants. It's ridiculous.
I mean, in particular, we always say sweatpants. So there are
Yeah.
many things that nowadays, like with a lot of things which are maybe traditionally more American in the last century, probably, have become commonplace in the UK as well. Cookies. Like, we have biscuits and we have cookies. They're different things, of course. But there are many words that maybe come from American English that now have become more British English as well, or just universal English. So, of course, pants traditionally, maybe they are for underpants, for underwear in British English. But nowadays, I think that like trousers, pants, we use them interchangeably. What do you reckon?
I think no. I remember, so I first started going to school in the 1960s. I remember in the 1960s, so that's 60 years ago, my mum saying to another mum at the school, "Oh, it's really warm. I think I'll put Stephen in short pants tomorrow." She
Hmm.
didn't mean that I'd be going in my underwear. She meant I would be wearing shorts, my short pants, or, "Oh, it's a bit cold. We're going to put the kids in long pants." So that was 60 years ago. I think English people have always used pants to mean trousers, just like Americans, Australians, New Zealanders, Canadians, Irish, anyone who speaks English, pants can be both. You say, "Oh, I'm not wearing any pants. How daring." You probably mean your underpants.
Hmm.
But if you just say, "Oh, look, I'm just going to get dressed in my long pants," you're putting your long outer trousers on. So,
I guess the
mm,
lesson here to bear in mind and to take into account is that context is everything. So, of course, there are different nuances for many different words. And the important thing to remember is that you should be learning English by listening to real conversations, reading the news, reading stories, watching TV series, and context will give you all of the information that you need to have to be able to take in all of these words. And of course, content creators, English teachers, sometimes we can be guilty of making short videos just to grab people's attention because it's part of the game, it's part of the marketing. You need to bend your own rules slightly to be able to appeal to a wider audience. But I think the most important thing that people, English learners, should be aware of is that you can't become fluent in a language and learn all of these intricacies just by memorizing words on their own, but rather we need to be using the language, immersing ourselves in the language to be able to learn it through context.
100% agree. You put that very well, my friend.
Thank you. You see, we came to an agreement in the end.
It wasn't a load of pants.
It wasn't pants, and pants as well. We could use it to say that something is rubbish, like, oh, that's pants. It's rubbish. It's not very good. So hopefully you didn't think that this conversation was pants. And on that note, we're going to call it a day because we've already answered 6 different questions and we're running out of time. So we'll save the next couple of questions for our next chit chat, which will probably be in a few weeks. So, Steve, thank you once again for joining me for a nice little chit chat.
It's always the delight. It's strange where these things take you. You know, we start off with one question, we suddenly go down this rabbit hole into something else. And it's fun. It's fun reminiscing, thinking back over things that have happened before. Stories that don't get told anymore can be told here, and hopefully people enjoy them. Thanks, Lewis.
And maybe I'll look out of the window right now and see some kind of flying saucer and be like, Steve, you were right.
Ooh.
UFOs, aliens, they do exist.
Ah,
So
probably
thank
not.
you, everybody, for watching, listening, and we'll see you again very soon. See you later.
Bye
Bye
bye.
bye.